The reliable power of belief. When you believe something very strongly, it tends to come true. And after it comes true, you mostly believe in it even more strongly, by which it stays true. That's why it's always a little easier to maintain those things that you already have rather than creating something new that you can't see yet, because most people have a hard time believing in things they can't see. They say, I'll believe it when I see it. And that means if they don't see it, they're not going to believe it. If they don't have the evidence for it, they're not going to believe it. So the purpose of reality creation, which I teach, and of faith and belief and so forth, is to believe in the unseen that is not manifested yet, that is not there yet, to believe in it so strongly, to ask for it so strongly, to pray for it so strongly, to trust in it so strongly that through that belief it reliably comes true. Okay? Now, if belief has such a magnificent power, which I claim it has, it makes sense to examine belief a bit more closely. In fact, I've examined it so closely that I've made it the study of my life. I've made it a study how my beliefs work, what they look like, which beliefs I have, which I'd like to discard, which are fact-based, which are not fact-based, and so forth. And I'd like to draw your attention to my chart called Levels of Belief, which I published a few years ago. And there I say that when you're certain of your dream, as you are, that the sun will rise in the morning, your dream shall come true. And what that means is that you absolutely believe that the sun's going to rise tomorrow morning. That gives you a feeling of what belief really feels like. There's no doubt whatsoever. And the sun does rise, okay? Would it still rise if you no longer believe it does? I don't know. I've never tried disbelieving in that, and I'm not going to try. I do want the sun to keep rising for me in the morning. However, if you have that same level of confidence in one of your goals or your dreams, guess what? It's going to come true sooner or later. You can't avoid it. It's inevitable. Okay? So I've made a list. In order to examine belief more deeply, I've made a list here of levels of belief, which means the power of a belief, how much energy it has to manifest the things you'd like to manifest. So at the very bottom of the scale, you have hope. I'd call hope the first level of belief. And I could use other words for this, but I've chosen hope to give you a sense of what it feels like. It's the beginning of belief. You hope that something happens. You have hope that things might get better. And that's not a very strong belief. Hope does not necessarily have the power to manifest new realities, but at least it inclines your consciousness in a more positive direction. Okay? You see, after hard times or difficult times, you see a little ray of light, and you get hope, or something nice happens, and you get hope. At the next level, you have notions and opinions, and everybody has a bunch of notions and opinions, but they don't quite have the power to manifest new realities. Okay, they do have the power to filter your perception and often obstruct your perception from clearly seeing what's going on. Okay, because you have so many opinions. But you might say, I'm of the opinion, or I have this notion that so and so and so and so and so. And that's strong enough to filter, not necessarily strong enough to stabilize and densify a new reality. You see, that's the effect of a belief. It densifies the non-physical into the physical. A good analogy for this is steam, water, ice, which are of the same substance in three different densities. So steam is the lowest density, and then there's water, a bit more dense, and then there's ice, which is fully manifest physical reality. And these thoughts and notions and opinions, they're like steam. And you have to find a way, if you want to turn them into physical reality, to densify them through a stronger belief, to turn them into water, and through an even stronger belief followed up by action to turn them into ice. Okay? At the next level on the scale, we have what is called assumption. It's things you assume are going to happen. You assume that they are true. And an assumption is stronger than an opinion. It's a presupposition that something is so. And you will find that that does often influence your reality. But the thing is, the reason it's weaker on the list is because we often have assumptions unconsciously. They're not consciously chosen assumptions. Okay? But if you consciously assume that somebody likes you, the probability that they like you is going to increase. And if you encounter them subconsciously assuming that they don't like you, you're going to radiate that, and you might get that back as a reflection. Whatever happens to you is a reflection of what you believe, of what you're assuming. Okay? So you want to question negative assumptions and don't question positive assumptions. At the next level, we have a view. I am of the view, I have the view. And the reason I put that higher than opinion is because the word view implies that you can see it. You can imagine it. And if you can imagine and see something, it's so much easier to manifest as a reality. As you've probably heard Walt Disney say millions of times, if you can dream it, you can do it. Okay? Because many people say, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, if you believe it then when you see it, then actually go ahead and see it in your imagination. Or if you see other people experiencing that, it's easier for you to believe that that's possible. So whenever people contact me with a serious illness, with a severe illness, the first thing I usually tell them is find stories by people or about people who have healed that illness. Look up stories of people who've healed that. Why? Because if you see that others have healed it, you build your belief that you can heal it. That's the first thing I would do if I suffer a serious illness. I'd look for examples of it being healed. And if you don't have such examples, you have to imagine them. Okay? You have to at least see it in your mind, at least to visualize it. Visualizing it is the least you can do if you cannot see it in outer reality. You see, visualization and imagination is a substitute if it's not around you. If something's around you and you see it every day, it's easy for you to believe. That's why the rich tend to get richer and the poor tend to get poorer more easily, because the rich constantly see riches all around them. It's easy for them to believe that they are in fact rich. Before I myself gained financial independence, when I was in my early 20s, I had no money whatsoever. I had to pretend that I was. I had to dress that way. I had to once in a while rent a car that made me feel that way. You know, I had to go to a neighborhood that felt that way so that I could see what's possible, because that would build my belief. And in my early 20s, my belief in being rich myself was so very low that I had to practice that for some time until I get used to the idea of riches. Okay, so my view means that you're viewing it and you can see it. And the longer you view it and see it, the easier it becomes to believe, and the easier it becomes to believe, the more likely it is to manifest. At the next level, I have the word position. And position, it is my position that is even stronger than view, because you're not just viewing the image from the outside, you've actually taken in the position. It's like you've gone into the movie and you're now standing in the position of somebody who's already experiencing that. A similar word also on the list is mindset. Meaning you have your mind set on something. You have a new set point. It's firm. It's fixed. And while I talk about this all might sound clear and easy to you, but you wouldn't believe how chaotic and mixed up and doubtful, full of doubt, many people's minds are. Okay, I get emails almost every day. I didn't ask for them, but I get them. I even say on my website, I don't have time to respond to all emails. I don't have time to chat, but I get them every day, and they're so full of chaotic thought and doubt often, and that's why they come to me, to set their mind straight and get a clear and firm mindset regarding what they really want. But if you're listening to this presentation, you can do that yourself, only by understanding what a belief is and how it's developed. Okay? So having a position or a set mind is very, very powerful. Of course, it becomes a limitation when you have your mind set on things that are no longer of service to you, that are no longer helpful for you. Okay? Many old people who think they know how the world works, they have their mind fixed and set on certain ways of living, and that's how they perceive the world. And those things may have been helpful for them at one time. Maybe they're still helpful for them. But if their mind is too set and too fixed, they're unable to perceive or experience anything outside of their set mind. And that's what's going to happen to you someday too, of course, because you're going to set your mind on certain principles, and if these principles work and make you really successful, you might hold on to them and never let go of them again. And you say, this is the way things are. I have my mind set on them. That's the way things are, because that's what helped you get successful. So it makes sense to, appreciate beliefs, but not get too stuck into them, not get too stuck on them. A belief should be like a car that takes you from point A to point B. And once you're at point B, you can discard the car, and get a better one. There's always a better car. Keep your mind open. However, while driving toward your destination, don't keep your mind open. Don't look at other cars. Stay with that belief. Stay with that car until it brings you to where you want to be. So you can see there's a time for closing your focus, closing your mind, and a time for opening it. In fact, as a general rule of the thumb, I'd say if things are working out very well for you, keep your beliefs, keep your sets of principles and your mindset. And if things are not working out for you, then open your mind and let go of your beliefs and release and discover new ideas, new ways of life. The next strength or level of belief is what I call expectation. When you actually expect that something is going to happen, that is revealed in your actions. Then you actually prepare for it happening. Okay? I had this event organizer. He was looking forward to a huge event regarding shooting a bunch of balloons up into the air for the public. And it was his first such event. And he told me, in my face, I was his coach, he told me that he firmly believes it's going to happen. But his actions revealed that he wasn't really expecting it. Why? Because he wasn't preparing for it. The event was only a couple of weeks off, and he hadn't produced any brochures or flyers for it yet. He hadn't advertised on social media for it yet. And by that, I could tell that he wasn't really expecting it to happen, And guess what? The event never occurred. And asked him what was wrong, and he said, well, things came in the way, and I didn't have enough people who signed up for the event, blah, 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 blah. And then I said to him, well, I could tell you didn't really believe it. And he said, oh, yo, I did believe it. I did believe it. I tried this belief thing, but it didn't work. And then I said to him, well, no, you didn't believe it because you weren't preparing for it. You were not preparing for success. Why weren't you preparing for it? And then he said, well, I wasn't sure whether it's going to happen for now. I can't make preparations if I'm not sure. And I said, bingo, you were not sure. Okay, that means you did not really believe. That means you were below the level of hope and way below the level of expectation. Okay, so in people's actions, it is revealed whether they really believe or not, whether they really expect it or not. If you really believe something, if you say you believe something, that's going to show. You're going to prepare for it. And I guarantee you, as you prepare for success, success shall come. All the books I wrote in my early 20s, before I was successful in any way, okay, I was neither financially successful nor successful in much of anything else. But I wrote books because I knew the day would come where I'd be madly successful and where those books would be very much sought after and very much liked. And even though nobody read them and they didn't sell and nobody was interested, I kept writing. What was I doing? I was preparing for the success of the books. I was writing them in a way, the way I was writing the books was in the assumption, in the expectation that very good and very smart and very conscious people would read them. And what happened many, many years later? Well, they did. So as you prepare for success, you're actually creating success. Next on the list is what I call faith. And faith is strong enough to create a reality you want, okay? Expectations can be disappointed sometimes if they're not strong enough. But faith is almost always answered. In fact, in my own life, I can't remember when faith was not answered. Faith is the belief in things not yet seen. Faith also means, if somebody says you have an incurable disease, as I've heard many of my students say, I have an incurable disease, the doctor said it's incurable. Faith would be to still believe in spite of an authority or a doctor saying it's not possible. Okay, in spite of people saying it's not possible. I'll give you one very recent example. This arm of mine was, it seemed to be injured from tennis. I've been playing a lot of tennis recently, and it hurt so much I couldn't move it properly. I couldn't even write anymore. Couldn't write any beautiful books or articles for a couple of days. And I went to the tennis court, and one of the coaches there told me, it's not looking good. If you don't go to a surgeon, not even a doctor, he said, if you don't go to a surgeon, you might never be able to carry a shopping bag again. And I thought, oh, that's pretty negative. In that moment I rejected that. That's not my belief. That's not my faith. So I thought, okay, what would Fred Dodson do? Me being Fred Dodson, I often ask, what would he do? What would the coach Fred Dodson do? And he'd actually, what he teaches is the acting as if method. And the acting as if method uh, requires a lot of faith. And if I don't have that faith, I better go to the doctor. Okay? I'm not recommending you don't go to the doctor here. Don't get me wrong. But if you have a lot of training in this and a lot of faith, you can skip the doctor and heal it yourself, which I did. I can move my hands now. What I did is I actually went to play tennis, which is the last thing I should do. I put a bandage on my hand, and in the first moments it hurt, but the more I acted as if and the more faith I had in its power to heal, and the harder I played, in fact, not the softer I played, the harder I played, the more it started to disappear, and by the end of playing, which was 3 hours later, my hand was totally fine. Now that's odd, that's really strange, because normally when you have pain or illness or anything, or an injury, it's an indicator that you should rest. And I agree with that principle. In normal cases, it means you should rest, okay? But I turned that around, I reversed that, it was quite recent, and I played even harder, and the pain disappeared. And that's because I have very strong faith in these things, a very, very strong belief, so strong that it can change physical reality, okay? And then I went up to that coach and said, no, I don't need a surgeon, okay, it's all good, it's all fine. He was surprised. He said, oh, okay, and maybe it was something with the muscles or something. And that may or may not be true, but this expert's negative attitude surprised me. An expert or a doctor, they should never have a negative attitude. And I don't know why they do. They can have a positive attitude and still stay honest. They could say, well, it's not looking that good, but we can give it a try, instead of saying, you're never going to be able to do this or this again. You're never going to be able to play tennis again, which was almost what he was saying. Okay? So the next level on the list I call trust. And I can't necessarily say I put these words in the absolutely right order. Okay, some people might feel that trust is weaker than faith, or faith weaker than trust, but that's the order I put them in, just for the purpose of discerning between different levels of belief. Trust to me is deep. It's more deep. It's something from the depths of the subconscious, or the guts, or your stomach, or your heart, your chest. Okay? It's when you really trust in something. You have deep, deep trust. It's almost as if a feeling of love is mixed in with that. Okay? And when you extend or radiate such a feeling toward other people, it can work miracles. If I have trust that my students will achieve something, that's going to help them greatly. If you have trust that something will come to pass, it's very likely that it will come to pass. And if later you say, well, my trust was disappointed, my faith was disappointed, chances are you did not have real trust or real faith, okay? That's what I'd like you to assume. I never want to hear from one of my students or from a reality creator, my trust was disappointed or my faith was disappointed, because it's physically impossible. It goes against the laws of physics, against the laws of the universe. Trust creates an incredibly powerful energy field that very much benefits the manifestation of anything you direct it towards. Okay, so what would you like to trust? The next state I'd call confidence. And if you look at your life, you'll see that there's some things you're confident about and some things you're not confident about, or not yet confident about. And just for a moment, I'd like you to think about what you're actually already confident about. it's good to think of those things because that generates a state of confidence within you. And then asking yourself if you could transfer that state of confidence that you just experienced to things you'd like to be confident about. So think of something you'd like to be confident about and see if you can transfer that state. If this reminds you of the converting fantasy to belief exercise in the reality creation and manifestation video course, that's because it is. Okay, it's a producing of a state of confidence, then transferring that to something you're not confident about yet. That's one of the best exercises I've ever written, I've ever created, and I recommend you do it a lot. You'll find a detailed version of it in the Reality Creation and Manifestation video course. And then there's even higher conviction. Conviction is almost total. I am convinced. It's not only I hope or I have the view or not even only I believe, it's I'm convinced. It's almost higher or stronger than the word believe. I don't only believe, I'm totally convinced, 100%. Or I am sure. It's a beautiful statement. I am sure you will enjoy this product. I am sure we're going to make this and this happen. I was sure that my hand would heal, in spite of people telling me, oh, you should go see a doctor, oh, you shouldn't be playing tennis with that hand, blah, 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 blah. I was sure. That's why I did it. If I weren't sure what would happen, well, I'd go play tennis and my hand would get worse, actually, and then I'd really need a doctor. So if you're not sure, you shouldn't even pursue stuff like that. You should build your belief first, build your assurance first. At the next level, I call it certainty. It's certain. There's no other way. Okay, it's 100% certain. Not 99%, it's 100%. What's plan B? There is no plan B. Plan B is plan A. That's certainty. At an even higher level, I'd call it knowing. I know. I know is so strong because you don't even consider it a belief anymore. You consider it a fact. You consider it knowledge. This is information. This is knowledge. This is a fact. Not just my belief. I know this is true. I know it. I know it. I just know. I know this is true. See how strong that is? It's a belief that's become subconscious. When your belief has become subconscious, it's no longer a belief, it's a knowing. It's an experience. At the next level, I'd say it's definiteness. Okay? And then finally, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. You can't stop it. There's nothing you can do against it. I mean, it's inevitable. Your success is inevitable. What does that statement feel like? Your health is inevitable. Inevitable. So Your question, of course, is how to achieve that level of belief if you don't have evidence for it. If you have evidence to the contrary, well, I strongly recommend, as I already said, the converting fantasy to belief exercise in the reality creation and manifestation video course, which you can find at my website, realitycreation.org. And another way to strengthen your belief is to become very familiar with the words we've just been through. Let's say, beginning at assumption. Assumption, view, position, mindset, expectation, faith, trust, confidence, conviction, sureness, certainty, knowing, definiteness, and inevitability. Inevitability, is that the correct pronunciation? I don't know. Inevitable, sorry. Inevitability. Inevitability, that's the correct way to say it. English, huh? Inevitability. Yeah, as you familiarize yourself with these words, you look up the definitions of these words, you really get into them, that helps you. Understanding what these words mean and what they feel like helps you to strengthen your beliefs. For example, you know what view or position or mindset intimately means, it's easier to do it. I explained that position is not just viewing something from the outside, but actually taking in the role, taking in the position of something. Okay? That's why I teach when you take on a certain role or identity, it's going to help you believe. Or expectation, knowing that expectation has something to do also with action and preparing for success. That's one way to build the strength of your belief. Okay? There's many, many other ways that I implore you to explore for yourself. My name is Fred Dodson. If you enjoyed this presentation, share it far and wide. If this presentation helped you in manifesting your own dreams, say so. And also share your success far and wide, because the more you share your success and make others successful, the more you yourself become successful. That's why I usually share my own success stories, such as that of the arm, when I have the opportunity to do so. Because the more I inspire you, the more I get inspired. What I give is what I get. You have a nice day.